Thank you for joining us today. In our last series, we talked about the first part of just being in a long distance relationship, starting from dating all the way through getting engaged. And that was about 5 years. And now today is the second part of the series where we'll talk about being married while long distance and having children while being long distance. So culminating a total of about 11, 12 years. After getting married, we were still long distance. And, I actually wanted to have children. Even though we were long distance, I wanted to have children right after getting married. And he actually wanted to wait a little bit. So we ended up having our first child about 2, 3 years after getting married. And being a first time mom by myself, my husband being a resident, let's just say it was challenging to say the least. And actually, our daughter was born on the first day of residency. So that throws another monkey wrench into everything because for those who are aware of the medical profession, your first day of residency as an intern, I mean, that year is going to just basically be chaotic. And at the same time, I had moved to Maryland to start a new job as well. So I'm in Maryland with a newborn, starting a new job. And he is a first-year resident in Florida and as well a new dad. So I remember I'm waking up in the middle of the night by myself with the baby. And, I would just envision him having the best sleep of his life. And then he would call me in the morning and he'd be like, how was last night? How was your sleep? And I was just like, it was the worst. She didn't sleep. She woke up every hour. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. And then I'd be like, how was yours? He'd be like, I mean, it's cool. It was cool. And I would just get so angry because I knew he was sleeping very well. And I'm, as excited as I was to be a new mom, I was sleep deprived. And I was just like, oh God, this is nuts. And then he would come and visit. And as a first year intern, I mean, he could not come as we were used to while we were engaged. So he had to basically time his schedule based on, he had to time his visits based on his schedule. So I want to know from you, like whenever I give you those like morning calls, to see how your night was, like what were you thinking?
I had to be very careful, like what I said, but at the same time, I knew I was stressed out because that was my intern year. I was stressed out, but it doesn't compare to being a mother with a newborn baby. So I had to sometimes tread water lightly, but at the same time, I was just saying, yeah, this is my day, this was going on. But I was also trying to be sensitive to the way she was taking in the information because it was stressful. I was not there, and I could only come home like once a month. So that part, I was very trying to be gentle on her, but then also at the same time saying I had my responsibilities as an intern. So it was also trying for me because I have a family in Maryland, but at the same time, I'm trying to just balance this new life as a intern and practicing medicine.
And he would say to me like, oh, this is like trying time for me, but I really didn't, honestly, I didn't believe him. I felt like how is it, like, yes, you have your program and everything, but that's all you literally have to focus on is go to your residency and come home, study, that's it. And then I had to, think of baby work and everything else. And I remember like there was a time that I called him and then he didn't pick up. And then I kept calling because I was like, I needed to speak with him. And then he sends me a text at the movies. And like, I literally like, my head like combusted. Like, what do you mean you're at the movies? I haven't had a chance to step outside my house and you're at the movies. Like, I was literally like losing it because in my mind I'm like, for you to think of the movies at a time where I am home with the baby. You shouldn't be at the movies. You should be on the phone with me, talking to me. And if I have nothing to talk about, you should just be on the phone and silence and just do that. And so I was just like so livid that he found time to go to the movies. But, you know, hindsight, years later, I realized that that was his way of de-stressing because he was in a challenging time and environment with his career, and he needed to excel in order for him to complete the program. But at that time, I was just like, are you kidding me? And I don't know, do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that vividly because, like, again, with long distance relationships, I think it's important to be very transparent, like where you're going. And
Yeah, because he could have lied to me, but
Yeah,
I appreciated that he didn't.
yeah, but I think it was very transparent. And looking back, I think it would have been best if I told, like, say, oh yeah, I'm going to be in the movies instead of her getting a text. But in general, for me, it was very, like you said earlier, for me, a way for me to just decompress and stress. But you didn't have that opportunity to do that because you had to be hands-on. So that's the dynamic sometimes of relationships in long distance, where one person may be more mobile and another may not because they're with the children. So those are give and takes. And for myself too, from as a father's perspective and a husband, I felt very stressed a lot of times because I was not there to be a husband to my wife during that time period of taking care of our daughter, because I love her very much and I didn't want her to suffer. And in the times I did have those opportunities to fly back home during weekends off, I would have this golden weekend that my work gave me, and I would have this opportunity to come and see my kids. But then at the same time, I wanted to rest. But then I wanted to like just use that. I'm like, wow, I got a free weekend. I got 2 days off, and that was so golden and opportunity just to sleep and relax. But when I came, my wife was like, here's your daughter.
Right, exactly. I really would, because in my mind, I'm like, daddy's coming home, so you need to change the diaper. I'm going to go to bed. And when she cries, you're going to be the one to wake up and take care of it. And I did feel, and to be fair, I did feel some resentment because I felt like, okay, he would come back, but then, you know, he still had like an outlet. And then as he's like changing the diapers, he's like moving slow. And I'm just like, how do you not know how to change the diaper? What is wrong? Like, what's going on? And I would just get so annoyed because I was jealous. I was jealous because I felt like I don't even know what's going on in the world right now. But you know, of every movie and TV show, you're getting your 8 hours. I'm working off of 3. And so it was just like so frustrating. And then 2 years later, we decided to do that again and have our son. And at this point, you know, I felt like maybe the frustration kind of got a little bit even more, because if he would like mess up, I'd be like, okay, how do you not know this? We're on our second child. Like, come on, you know. And then, but on the positive end, I had something to look forward to because he would be coming home like in another year. So it was just like, okay, yes, he's coming back. So we're now like about to, you know, get back together and finally have our family complete. So were you nervous when you were getting ready to make that transition to come back?
Yeah, that was a point in my life where by that time, I knew what I was doing with residency. I was getting leadership positions. My life was I had a great routine, but then in the back end of things, I knew, like, from the small visits, okay, time is coming. It was not like I didn't want to come back home, but it was more like, okay, what is that going to look like for me? Being at home full time, where I was a geographical bachelor, where I was in the Miami area, and now I'm back at home where I have to be more hands-on. And so that was something where I had to mentally prepare to be a full-time dad and a full-time husband as well. So those were things that were, you know, I was thinking about.
Yeah. And for me, I wasn't thinking about how he would adjust moving back, in my mind, I was just more like, okay, great, he's coming back. So now it's time to make up for lost time. So as soon as he gets back, he's just gonna take over everything, and then I'm just going to have a chance to rest and relax. But that's not exactly how it ended up happening. When he moved back, he had to adjust, and then, we have like a routine in the house already. And so we had to kind of incorporate him into that routine. And then, as the father, husband, there were also perspectives that, he would bring in. And it did take me a while to adjust to that because, at this point, our daughter was like 4,
Yeah,
and our
4,
son
3,
was
yeah.
4, and our son was 2. So my mind was just like, okay, no, this is how we always do it. This is how, and but what needed to happen, and I strongly encourage for anyone who's in that situation, is that prior to just the move back, start having these discussions and incorporate these things.
I agree with you because there was like a slight tug of war at times.
Yeah.
Like, even though she had a routine and everything at home, I was also trying to instill my background into the house more often because when I came on visits, I would do that, but I would let things go with the flow because they had a routine. But when I came back, I was like, all right, daddy's home. So time for things to go my way. But then they had the routine, and so I had to learn how to adjust to the way the house was being ran. And then eventually, as I started being part of the house on a full-time basis, it was able to incorporate my personality, my views into the house to make things go seamless. So I think that's important where when you're coming from a long distance relationship to now you guys are there every time. For us as a couple, there's another thing that I think a lot of couples go through is more, okay, how do you communicate with each other? Before we would just communicate based off the phone. And so when I talk to her on my drive to work or drive back, that was our time, or even the evenings before we go to bed, that's how we'd communicate. But now I see her every day, and so it was weird at times because I'm like, all right, there's no clicking off the phone. I'm going to go off and do what I want to do. I was like, she's still there.
And with him coming back, yes, all of that was like, what are we gonna do, like towards the rearing, like how are we gonna rear our children together? But then also we had to make an effort to make time for us. We've been at this point, we've been in a long distance for 12 years. And so now it's like, okay, what we need to find time where we connect as husband and wife and as a couple away from the children. And so, as just a result of that, and since he's moved back, we commit to every year going on a trip, like out of the country or somewhere, just the two of us, no kids. And it's just like our way to reconnect. Sometimes we'll go out on dates together, no kids, just for us to continue to reconnect, keep the lines of communication open, and just continue that feeling and just life of just what it is that drew us to each other, from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and I think it's always good to, like when you're in a long distance and when you return back to, the focus is on each other, and I think if you could do that, I think it'll help the relationship out a lot.
Definitely. So I would say for those who are experiencing something similar, definitely work together as partners to help raise your children. But always, it's very, very important. Find time for yourselves. Self-care is important. Self-care as a couple. One person people have different strengths. I'm not the best in making appointments for myself about certain things. So he gets a lot of massages. So he now makes my massage appointments like weekly. Sometimes we'll do ones together. I'm the person that plans our trips. So as one trip is wrapping up, we're looking like, okay, next year, where are we going to go? And just to try to just see the world together and just have our moment to reconnect. I hope this has been helpful. No marriage is perfect. No relationship is perfect. Mm-hmm. There's going to be struggles, but it's very important to keep the lines of communication open, have trust, and do whatever is possible to minimize jealousy, and just be transparent with each other. Thank you so much for watching us. Follow us on our social media platforms at GPS Mindset. Have a great day. Bye-bye.